Hello. I'd like to bring your attention to an article I've read by Richard Hall. I found this on the internet. And it's, in my opinion, it's a meeting to commit treason. Okay? I'm going to read the article to you, and then you decide why the Department of Justice and Attorney General Garland aren't taking steps to charge these people with treason. Okay? It says, unhinged, the crazy foul-mouthed Oval Office meeting where baffled lawyers battled conspiracy theorists for Trump's attention. A team of lawyers assembled by Donald Trump to challenge the results of the 2020 election arrived at the White House with a binder full of conspiracy theories and a draft executive order to seize voting machines. Do you understand that? To have the military seize voting machines. And this is written by Richard Hall. See, a White House meeting described at various times as crazy, contentious, unhinged, and hot-blooded took center stage at January 6 committee's latest hearing on Tuesday. The committee heard from key participants in the meeting, which took place just 4 days after the Electoral College met to certify the election for Joe Biden. It was described by the committee as critically important to understanding Mr. Trump's actions in the days leading up to January 6th. On December 18th, in the dying days of his presidency, a motley crew of lawyers and supporters assembled by Donald Trump to challenge the results of the presidential election arrived at the White House. They came armed with conspiracy theories and a draft of executive orders that would have effectively annulled the results of the presidential election, and they arrived to a receptive audience in the president. Attorneys Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, retired National Security aide Michael Flynn, and the head of the online retail company Overstock managed to reach the president before many of his top advisors knew what was taking place. White House counsel Pat Cipollone and other officials scrambled to intervene. When they did, chaos ensued. What followed was a division of the room between the White House advisors who knew Mr. Trump had lost the election and the outside legal team who were furious that not enough was being done to pursue their conspiracy theories about voter fraud and stolen elections. The row would last for some 6 hours. Crucially, the outside legal team brought with them a plan to rectify the situation in the form of a draft executive order calling for the U.S. military to seize states' voting machines. This plan would later be promoted by Mr. Trump, according to the testimony from former Attorney General William Barr. Mr. Trump, who had himself spread and encouraged those same conspiracy theories, seemed to side with Mrs. Powell and her cohort. At one point during the meeting, he offered to give Ms. Powell a job as special counsel for the Department of Justice to investigate non-existent fraud. Participants testified. Mr. Giuliani, in video testimony, recalled the president telling the White House attorneys that they were not tough enough, and that using grass language, calling them pussies. The meeting descended into a screaming and even threats of physical violence between the two groups. Eric Hirschman, a former senior White House advisor, said the screaming was completely out there. What they were proposing, I thought, was nuts, he added. Pat Cipollone, White House counsel to Mr. Trump, forcibly rejected the plan to seize voting machines. Sidney Powell wanted to be appointed special counsel to the horror of the White House lawyers. To have the federal government seize voting machine, that's a terrible idea for the country. That's not how we do things in the United States, Mr. Cipollone said, or testified to. He also said that he vehemently opposed the hiring of Mrs. Powell as special counsel, adding, "I don't think she should have been appointed to anything." Mr. Cipollone continued that he repeatedly asked for the outside legal team to provide evidence for their claims, but received none. There was a real question in the mind and a real concern, particularly after the Attorney General had reached the conclusion that there wasn't sufficient election fraud to change the outcome of the election. When other people kept suggesting there was, the answer is, what is it? And at some point you have to put up or shut up, he said. This is Mr. Cipollone. Now the meeting went on past midnight and spread across several rooms in the White House before arriving back where it began in the Oval Office. When the meeting was finished, Mr. Giuliani was escorted off White House grounds to make sure he did not wander back, U.S. Representative Jamie Raskin said at Tuesday's hearing, citing other testimony. Cassidy Hutchinson, a former White House aide whose own bombshell testimony revealed Mr. Trump's thinking before January 6th in the committee's last hearing, wrote in a text message after the meeting had wrapped up, "The West Wing is unhinged." Apparently unsatisfied by the conclusion of the meeting, Mr. Trump took to Twitter to early hours of the morning and called for his supporters to come to Washington on January 6th, the day when Congress would certify Mr. Biden's election. In that text, he said, "Be there, will be wild." Mr. Raskin summarized the evidence about the meeting as critically important to understanding Mr. Trump's motive in spreading lies about the 2020 election because the president got to watch up close for several hours as White House counsel and other White House lawyers destroyed the basis, factual claims, and ridiculous legal arguments being offered by Sidney Powell, Michael Flynn, and others. The implication that Trump drew his claims of stolen election was bogus, and that he went all out to cling to power anyway. Now, they planned to overthrow the government of the United States. That, ladies and gentlemen, is treason. Look at the definition. The offense of attempting by overt acts to overthrow the government of the state to which the offender owes allegiance. He didn't try to hide anything. It wasn't a covert operation, just was out plain sight for a long time. Why is there no charges being brought? You do not have to be an Einstein to understand there should have been charges brought a year ago, if not longer. What's the holdup? I'm beginning to think the Department of Justice is owned by Donald Trump, and Mr. Garland is working for him. I mean, you've got Mark Meadows, the chief of staff, should be charged. He failed to report to Congress. He was subpoenaed, and his deputy chief of staff, Scavino, why wasn't he charged with obstruction of justice or refusing to the subpoena that Congress wanted him before the committee? Why is nobody being charged in this crime? This is serious crap, and nobody's doing anything. Half the Congress should have never been sworn in, if you read the Constitution, but the Democrats have no guts, or is it plain and simple, they have no balls to do anything, and I'm getting sick of them. Biden needs to get off his ass instead of playing stupid and start doing something with this government, because we are going to lose it. Now, for you folks who are in the red states that want somebody like Trump in power, go to Russia. You think you have First Amendment rights? You can hang that up. You think you've got the Second Amendment? Oh, I got news for you. You put somebody like Trump in office, guess who's coming for your guns? Huh? The same people that support you today. They're not going to allow you to have guns. Do you understand what I'm saying? You people need to wake up. This is some serious stuff at this next election. If you allow these same people to be elected, you deserve to lose your Constitution and your freedom. Because you are complete idiots. Thank you.